If you're selling your business or looking for investors and you want top dollar and you don't want to lose the sales, stall the closing, or leave money on the table, and want to do it without more sales and marketing, then this short video will show you how to get top dollar for your business, even if you think that's not possible. So you can retire, start another business, or just enjoy your life. Hi, my name is Bill Honaker, and I'm an intellectual property attorney, and for the last 40 years, I've helped people like you get top dollar for their business. I want to start out with a story about two business owners. Two companies that were both in the manufacturing business. They've been successful for years, and the owners are considering selling their businesses to do something different or just to retire. The first owner, she had a system to regularly review her intellectual property. She had a concise, complete list of all of her IP holdings updated regularly. She received a huge multiple due to the managed IP portfolio. The second owner, his business was creative, but IP was an afterthought. His portfolio was not managed, and he had difficulty getting interested buyers and was offered less than he expected because his IP wasn't protected. What makes that kind of difference in people's lives? The difference is one person took action on their intellectual property and the other didn't. How powerful is this? Here are a couple of examples of actual business owners who I've been involved with who won and lost in the intellectual property area. The first, a true winner, was Trinex. Trinex was started by two brothers, Chuck and Jay Truan. They started out in the lawn and garden maintenance business. They were basically mowing grass, plowing snow, and spreading salt. They went from that business into the lawn and garden retail business, where, among other things, they were selling salt spreaders. So by using salt spreaders, selling salt spreaders, and repairing salt spreaders, they came up with a better salt spreader. That's when I met them. Brand new company, just got started. And one of the things both Chuck and Jay wanted to do was to make sure their intellectual property was protected because they understood this added value to the business. And that's what we did. We got a strategy together to develop that intellectual property portfolio. They were in business a number of years, and then they were approached by an international company, Douglas Dynamics, who was in the snowplow business. And they wanted to add salt spreaders to their business, and they made it clear from the very beginning they wanted the intellectual property portfolio of Trinex because, and especially because of the trademarks. There were patents. The patents were getting close to expiration. They were a great asset to the business, but the trademarks were very valuable to Douglas Dynamics because they were the identity of the company, what customers knew, what customers appreciated with regard to Trinex and all of its sub-brands. Chuck and Jay sold that business for huge multiple over what was expected of businesses of that type. In fact, my recollection is they obtained a 50% increase in the multiple for their business. Now I'll tell you about someone who screwed up. A company needed $4 million to expand. They were very successful, but faltering because they needed more equipment. My client was impressed with the company and the products it was selling and wanted to invest. But my client walked away because the company's IP portfolio was a mess. Their patents weren't properly assigned to the business. Their trademarks hadn't been filed. There was nothing managed about their intellectual property. We learned later that that company went bankrupt. Another problem was the $250,000 lost at closing. There was a $70 million deal that was getting ready to close. One company was buying another company. It was learned that foreign trademarks were in the selling company's distributor's name. They had protected their intellectual property and they thought that they had filed these, but in fact the European distributor filed all of their trademarks in the distributor's name to be helpful to the company it was distributing products for. When it came time to close, the buying company demanded to have that intellectual property, and the distributor demanded $250,000 to transfer it over because they knew they weren't going to be a distributor anymore. So $250,000 came out of the selling companies at the closing. If the intellectual property had been properly managed, this would have been taken care of years before and not been an issue. The fact is, intellectual property is more important today than ever, and if you don't have it managed, you will lose money. It's important to know that every business has intellectual property, and it's also important to know the time to act is now. Trying to ignore your intellectual property problem, hoping it goes away, only makes it worse, because you're facing a scary scenario that you don't know much about, and frankly, you're not alone. Intellectual property is complex, it's confusing, and it's difficult to understand. And if you're like most business owners, you've treated your intellectual property as an afterthought. Most of my new clients have failed to take full advantage of this valuable asset. And what's agonizing is how it costs them profits, hurts their business value, and can kill a business sale. A big misconception that many new clients have is that their most valuable asset are their employees and their great products. And what I've learned, the truth is, your employees can be replaced, your customers can be stolen, and your products can be copied. So they're not that valuable to your business after all. The most important things you need to know is that Forbes recently reported that intellectual property has grown from filling 20% of corporate balance sheets to 80%, due in large part to the expanding nature and rising importance of intangibles. What are intangibles? Basically, intangibles are intellectual property. Ocean Tomo, a respected IP valuation firm, reported in 2022 that intangible assets, again, intellectual property, command a staggering 90% of the Standard & Poor's, the S&P 500 market value. Investors and business purchasers are comforted and pay a premium for well-managed intellectual property portfolios. How important is this? Let's go back to Trinex. They used my system while developing their business. They captured all of their intellectual property, and they sold the business for about 50% more than similar businesses were selling for, and the purchasers said they were mainly interested in the intellectual property portfolio. Misconception number 2, I don't have intellectual property. Well, what you need to know is every business has intellectual property. Every business has a trademark. That's your business name. Probably the names of many of your products. Your business has copyrights. Any of your sales brochures, your website, your marketing information, images, etc. You have trade secrets, the things that bring value to your company that you don't want others to know about, that you keep secret, like, for example, profit margins, future plans, possibly suppliers, key employees, key customers. There's a lot of these. And then some of you will have patents, which add to the value of the company. Now, since you're watching this video, I know you want to take control of your intellectual property and get top dollar for your business or attract investors when that time comes. And you've probably done some research online to find an answer to these questions. Maybe you've talked to other business owners, maybe you researched other companies that have been sold. Maybe you read some articles about business valuation, or possibly talked to a business broker, or worse, maybe you've talked to a CFO who told you that IP can't really be valued, which is not true. Only to realize that the CFO finds it hard to value IP and doesn't know what to do with it, which is true of most CFOs, and which is true of accounting with regard to intellectual property these days. So if you're thinking of selling your business but are frustrated and worried because you don't know that your IP has value, your next step should be, and please listen carefully to what I'm about to say, because after helping numerous businesses that got top dollar, I can tell you that the number one reason people struggle to get full value for their IP is that they lack a strategy for getting their IP under control and knowing how to sell that asset with the business. Nearly everyone I've talked to over the years have tried one or more haphazard ways to fix this problem, but they end up frustrated and even more stressed. To get control of your IP and to get paid for its value, you need a proven step-by-step strategy to recognize, collect, and protect your intellectual property. So in the next few minutes, I'll share with you the exact three-step system I've used to help people get control of their IP and to get more value in their business and from their business. I promise that when you follow this system, you will have a plan, sleep better, and get top dollar for your business. Okay, the first step is to take control and stop ignoring the problem. Quit putting your intellectual property on the back burner. IP assets are valuable, you have them, and they have to be dealt with. Ignoring the problem will only create further problems, including potentially losing all the value to a purchaser or investor. So the first step is to decide that you will do whatever it takes without excuses to fix your IP problem. As corny as it may sound, I encourage you to commit it in writing. Get a piece of paper and write. I commit to myself and, more importantly, probably to my family, to do whatever it takes to take full advantage of my IP assets. Sign and date it and put it somewhere you can see it daily. This simple first step will help move you from fear and worry to resolve and determination. Step 2 is to understand what IP actually covers and to accept the fact that your business has it. Hoping that the purchaser will recognize its value is a disaster. The buyer will use your lack of IP protection as leverage to negotiate a lower price, or as the example I showed you earlier, they may just walk away. You don't want to sell your business without understanding the value of our IP portfolio to potential buyers. While this might temporarily feel good, just ignoring a problem, ignoring your IP won't increase your business value or price. You also don't want to go into negotiations without naming all of your IP. Yes, the goal is to sell your business, but without guidance on how to package your IP, this will only encourage the seller to ignore it and encourage them to offer less than your business is worth, even if they know you have valuable intellectual property. Ignoring your IP because it seems hard to identify and not packaging it for the buyer is critical and must be considered carefully. You have to understand the scope of your IP and present it in a package to the buyer. You need to demonstrate with strong evidence that your IP is valuable and that the buyer should be paying a premium for it. Step 3, take the fight to the buyer. Depending on your situation, some strategies include identifying what you have, naming it, and showing the value it brings to your business. Protecting your IP with the United States trademark, copyright, and patent offices is critical. Purchasers and investors want to see that it's been properly protected through the federal government's resources for protecting intellectual property. Having your IP properly protected shows that it is managed and valuable. You need to show the buyer a comprehensive statement of your IP. Don't make them look for it. Just provide them a complete statement showing all of your intellectual property and all of the information that would be of value to the buyer or investor. A combination of these strategies will often work best, so having a well thought out plan is mission critical before you approach a buyer or investor. Assuming you have the correct strategy, the buyer or investor will see the strength of this asset. Here are some crucial things you need to know about that. Without solid evidence, the buyer will be encouraged to offer less than its true value. They will increase their demands for IP protection and will use it as leverage to lower their offer. Please listen carefully. Knowing what not to say and do is almost important as the plan you've designed. One huge secret is to know what to do and how to sell it. Saying the wrong things or the right things in the wrong way can derail the entire negotiation and put you in a weak position. So let me share with you some tips for getting top dollar for your business. As we discussed, have a plan and know what you want. If you go into negotiations unprepared, you'll be eaten alive and forced to accept their plan, which will not benefit you. Knowing what IP you have and that it is protected is critical. You might miss the opportunity to get top dollar because the buyer investor is concerned about the lack of protection and whether it is truly your intellectual property. Before you approach a buyer or investor, you need a strong position that they will understand and respect. If you are unprepared, they will use everything you didn't do against you. If you do everything right, you can take control of the negotiation. So far, we've discussed what can happen if you don't take control of your IP, what you should and shouldn't do, and a high-level overview of the system for taking control and fixing your intellectual property problem. While my three-step system looks simple on the surface, as with many powerful processes, many more details are hidden under the hood. You can try to figure out everything and take your chances on your own, or you can work with someone who has experience and help you fix your problem as efficiently and effectively as possible. And that's what we do for our clients who are ready to take control of their IP problem once and for all. So they can take advantage of their existing IP assets and get top dollar for their business. If that sounds like you and you're 100% serious about getting top dollar for your business so that you can enter negotiations with your assets named, evidence of their value, and a report that highlights everything, and are committed to fixing your problem, accomplishing your goal, and getting top dollar, we should talk because my mission is to help business owners get what they deserve for their business. If that sounds like you, click the strategy session button on below. We'll talk about your situation and I'll share with you what needs to be done. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a patent lawyer who has been doing this for 40 years. I will diagnose your problem and tell you how to fix it. At the end of our call, you'll make one of two decisions. If you want to work with us to fix your problem, that's great. If you decide we're not a good fit, that's fine too. Please understand that the strategy session is for business owners who are serious about fixing their IP asset problem and getting top dollar for their business. The strategy session is for folks who have a substantial problem, are sick and tired of worrying about it, and want to solve it immediately. Quite frankly, it's for people who are willing to invest to solve their problems and get their assets in order. The strategy session is not for people who won't accept responsibility for their circumstances or who just are gathering information in hopes of finding a way to solve a difficult problem on their own. This session is for people who are ready to take the bull by the horns, resolve their IP problems instead of just worrying about them. This action taker and not excuse maker mentality is the type of person I love to help and describes my very best clients who get great results. If that sounds like you, I would love to help you. The next step is to click the strategy session button below and get on my schedule. If you're ready, the time for us to talk is now for 2 reasons. First is that fixing the problem needs to happen immediately. You may be losing intellectual property rights as we speak, so you need to get started. Second, I only work with a limited number of clients, so they get my focused attention, so you need to get on my schedule. So, if you're ready, click the button below and apply for a strategy session right now. Thank you for listening. I wish you the best, and I look forward to working with you.